Greetings, Lunarians and Renegades. I am your host, Vago back with another update video on Star Renegades. This video is going to feature a couple of different character highlights, including Wynn Syphhex and Bentley. These highlights were recently released by Massive Damage Games YouTube channel. You can find their channel in the link in the description below. Please throw them a subscribe and keep up to date with the latest video highlights on their channel. So what I want to basically do today is go through different screenshots of both videos to talk about different aspects of the game that we haven't seen thus far. For the sake of copyright issues, I have disabled the audio in the video itself. If you want to actually watch the highlight with all the sound, all the great music and stuff like that, you can find both of those highlight videos in the description as well. But we're gonna go ahead and play here, and once we get to a point I want to stop at, we'll talk about it. So let's see what we got right away. So we're looking at an overview of Wynn Syphhex here. It says she is a taunt, heavy damage, tank, and destroys armor type of character. We notice we have rankings for different types of aspects on status. Damage is at rank B, speed at rank C, and regen at rank E. On the right, we have armor damage at rank B, stagger at rank C, and support at rank C. We can kind of gather what each one of these mean to a certain degree. I'm not sure exactly what stagger means. It's probably diminishing maybe a stagger gauge the enemy has. I don't have that information currently. It may be taking the stagger gauge aspect from games like Final Fantasy 13, for example. Damage is self-explanatory. Speed is probably how fast you move on the timeline to get to the end to take your action quicker. Armor damage is also self-explanatory. They probably will have an armor gauge that you need to deplete in order to get to the enemy's health, kind of like in Divinity Original Sin. For regen, I'm going to assume that is regeneration for your power in order to use your skills maybe. I can't imagine that it's healing, but it may be healing. But I'm going to guess it's for your like energy output or your mana, if you will, to use your skills. Continuing on, right away, this aspect right here. So I want to stop at certain points here where they're selecting different parts of the power section. The first power they have highlighted is right here. This is described as Cleave, a heavy damage type ability that does 56 damage to the enemy. It assumes that this is the base damage, and added on to that, if you are able to do a critical attack with this attack, you will gain 28 extra damage to the enemy. This right here seems like it's damage to their armor as well, but it has to be a crit in order to do that. Or it may be armor piercing damage and you put 5 more damage on top of this total right here. That could be it as well. I'm not entirely sure what the timing clock is right here for 10 seconds. I'm going to assume that if you do indeed do a crit, this pushes yourself forward 10 seconds in the timeline, or it pushes the enemy back 10 seconds in the timeline. I'm not exactly sure. But it seems like it would push you forward. And I made a little mistake here. It's actually this second ability right here, not the first one. So I need to rewind real quick and look at the first one before we get to the third. Okay, they have the first one highlighted now. It is called Slash. It's her normal attack. It does 40 damage, base damage to the enemy. Crit bonuses as follows: 20 damage and possibly 2 extra damage on top of that through armor piercing, or 2 damage to their armor. I'm going to assume it's to their armor. The clock now says 20 seconds right here. Does this push you further ahead in the timeline if you use this ability instead of the previous one? My suspicion is that using Slash will allow you to take your next action quicker rather than using the heavy attack. If you use the heavy attack, you need to wait longer to use your action. It makes total sense. The next ability seems like a defensive ability. I thought it was going to be support, but it being a shield right here makes sense. It's defend. So defend on herself, applies effect, defend plus 50% defense. So barring all other side effects, for example, like armor piercing and stuff like that, this will cut the base damage that is done to you in half. And it looks like it lasts for a full turn. I'm assuming that that's what this means right here. Next ability definitely seems like a support ability for herself. This right here is called Battle Cry. It gives her a free action, does not end the turn, and taunts the enemy as well. This one seems like more of a double-edged sword type of ability and situational. What it will do for a positive effect is apply 50% extra damage, but in the same token, you are taking 15% extra damage from the enemy. The way I'm going to assume that it will work, it doesn't make any sense to use the ability, wait, and then wait for your turn to come around again. It only makes sense for the ability to be used, and then as that turn is going, you can use your ability or your next ability perhaps to take advantage of the increased damage that you're getting. I can already see a really nice synergy between this ability right here and Cleave. Massive, massive damage right there. I think that this is the last ability shown in this highlight right here, which is a debuff on the enemy, it seems. It both does damage and also massive armor damage to the enemy. So it seems like I was correct earlier in that this right here represents damage to their armor and not extra base damage through armor piercing. This one seems to be slightly faster in the turn rate, with 15 seconds being pushed forward after you use it. This one seems to be slightly faster than Cleave is when you use it for your turn, pushing you ahead 15 seconds instead of 10 seconds from Cleave. This ability may indeed be spammed if the enemy has a high armor value. However, I am curious about something, because is it a chance that you might get this because this is a part of the crit bonus? Is there a way to guarantee your critical attacks and make this happen every single time? Can you set this up, I wonder? Because otherwise, if Sunder is popped off with its normal version, it's just going to do 32 base damage to the enemy and not bonus armor damage. Regardless, I think that is it for the powers that are showcased for Wynn, so let's move on. Okay, so I'm going to have to remove my camera for this one because my big beautiful face will be in the way. We're going to be looking at the cards really quick on Wynn and then Bentley later. These cards are going to be used in your camping/resting areas. If you notice, we have companions over here, and each one has a friends gauge. This gauge can be increased depending on the cards that you use during your resting periods. The first one being shown is SciFex Guard. It's a preparation ability that you can give to one of your friends to increase their crit defense by 100% for 2 total combats. I'm not entirely sure what the yellow value here applies to when you use it on one of your friends during your resting periods, but the heart value represents how many points you're going to be giving to one of your friends if you use this card on, say, for example, this guy right here. Next card being shown right here is Plot Revenge. This is a tactic card. Pretty simplistic here. Whatever friend you decide to use it on will give that friend plus 33% damage to enemy health. This also lasts for 2 combats, gives you 5 points to their friend gauge, and once again, I have no clue what this one yellow value represents. If you do indeed know, please leave me a comment below. Third and final card being looked at is Bandage. Another basic one here. It's an aid card which heals your health by 50%. You can only give this to a friend. I assume that you cannot give this to yourself, otherwise it would say self. Right here is the next screenshot. This is kind of hard to capture because it just blazes right by as soon as I get to it, but this is a very nice shot of your current party. So I just want to get some names dropped here really quick. We're going over Wynn Syphex's today, which is a Valkyrie class. Tanky class, moderate damage. Right here is Zerx Nurza. Is that how you say his name? Or her name? I'm not sure. It's an Archon. This one seems to be like more of a mage character maybe, or it could be more of a speedy character, because if I'm to assume what this is right here is that they can act sooner by this timer being lower maybe, or this could be where they start in the turn order. I'm not exactly sure. Does it take 10 seconds to get to the end of the timeline? Does it take 30 seconds for this guy, 15 seconds for her? It's probably how long it takes you to get to the end of the timeline to finally take your turn. If that's the case, the Archon is definitely a speedy class instead of the mage class. Heck, it might be both, I don't know. Because what I'm seeing down here is a move called Celestial Smash. It does AoE armor damage, which seems extremely useful, because it seems like we're going to have to tear through a bunch of armor in order to get to the enemy's health, so that's a really good skill to have, I'm going to assume. Third character showcase is Nodo Calthoris. I remember seeing a tweet from one of the developers, I think it was Ken that tweeted it out, where he received like a piece of loot or a gun that could like pierce armor or something like that, which is perfect for this guy apparently. I want to see some of his abilities down here on the gains. Plant explosives, lays a trap to be instantly detonated later. I wonder how much control you have over that, because I'm going to assume that's going to stay there until you proc the trap to explode, for example. We're not going to get into the specifics now because I have no information on that whatsoever, just speculation, but let me know what your thoughts are, of course, in the comment below about all of these abilities and what you think they might actually be doing, and also what your thoughts are on these statuses right here. I have no clue what this symbol is right here. It looks like a D and A strand of some sort. It might be what's known as experience in this game to level up to your next level. I have no clue, but it might be some type of currency as well. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll find that out later for sure. Next screenshot, very basic, where Wynn is leveling up from 3 to 4, getting plus 30 health and getting a new power, which is Sunder. Here's a nice screenshot of the campsites that you're going to be resting at. I'm assuming that this is where you use your cards in order to increase your relationships between the characters. If you recall, we have gauges here next to the friend units, so if you use these cards, I'm going to assume it increases their affinity or relationship status with you in order to gain some type of benefits in the future of the game. I have no clue what this is going to entail, but we will definitely find that out later. In fact, it happens on the very next screenshot, so if you see up here it says relationship level up. Nodo Calthoris and Wynn Syphex's are now companions, so it looks like we have 3 different gauges right here. I don't exactly know what this says or this says, but we'll definitely find out when we play. And we have traits that have been unlocked with both characters. The trait for Nodo is an extra health of plus 20 and an extra stagger of plus 5 seconds on all attacks. This gives me a little bit more clarity on what stagger actually means in the game. It seems to mean that it bumps your enemy back in the timeline to make them slower. So having that trait on her for every single attack is going to be a huge game changer, I'm going to assume. Moving on to the next animation here, actually, I want to show you one of her attacks that she's going to be performing on this enemy here. Check this out. So beautiful, man. So beautiful. Now, I'm glad I stopped right here because this right here is reminiscent of Chrono Trigger. This is a synergistic attack between two different characters, Wynn being one, of course, and Davian or Davian, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they are combining their attacks to create what it's called, apparently, a Sci Slam. Let's check it out. And boom! Wow, that's insane. Okay, so I want to look at some of these procs that happened here with the crit damage and the breaks, all that stuff. So let's rewind a little bit. I'm still not sure what to make of the blue gauge. Is it a defensive value? Is it an armor value? I'm not exactly sure. But following the crit damage, we notice that we have a break animation right here. Also notice on this screen we have a value of 41 armor, if I'm to assume that's armor. I don't know the difference between this and the blue gauge. Is the blue gauge simply a gauge that you have to deplete in order to obtain break status? And after the blue gauge is depleted, do you then have to deplete the yellow gauge to get to the red gauge? I'm not entirely sure of what to make of it. This actually may simply be a damage reduction instead of a gauge, if you will. You're gonna need some serious tactics because this seems like a very high value comparatively to the damage value that we saw on Wynn's skills earlier in the video. Please leave your comments below. I want to have a bunch of dialogue with you guys. Let me know your theories on how you broke this down. I would be heavily interested in hearing from you. The next character we are going to be showcasing is a highlight of Bentley. This guy is a disruptive, returns fire, pierces armor, and is a space pirate. It's already stupid awesome. So the ranking for him is rank A on armor damage and stagger. This guy is clearly going to be one of your best options in order to deplete your enemy's armor damage as quickly as possible and to keep them backed up in the timeline so they do not get their turn as often. The turnaround of this, of course, is lacking in a little bit less raw damage, speed, and support values. The regen value is the same rank as it was for Wynn, so I'm not exactly sure who's going to have a high ranking regen and what regen actually entails. I'm still going to assume it's going to be an energy meter or a mana or magic meter, so we will see what happens in future videos and gameplay. Moving to the next slide is his HUD with his powers, cards, and traits. This screenshot definitely seems like they've been further along in the game because I'm seeing a lot more companions over here on the left. But for his abilities in general, we're highlighting this one first, which is called Armor Piercing Rounds. I have no clue what full ordnance means, but it gives a free action to Bentley. It applies a positive effect of plus 50% armor damage, which is full ordnance, so it's just depicted down here, so now I had some clarity. That lasts for 3 full rounds, it seems. Secondary effect is Return Fire, where he will counterattack the enemy when he is hit. I'm not entirely sure if this applies to AoE damage as well, but if it does, then that's very, very useful. I'm wondering also if he has like a high evasion rate, for example, because if he's wanting to be hit and counterattack while using this ability, then it would make sense to have him have a high evasion rating. I'm going to assume from what I see right here, this guy is not too tanky, but I could be totally wrong about that, who knows. Next ability being shown is this one. This one seems to be his normal attack, which is called Broadside. The normal attack that does a base damage of 44. Crit bonus being displayed right here, extra 15 raw damage and 6 armor damage as well. This already tells you that this guy has some super fast attacks because this pushes him ahead, I assume, in the timeline 25 seconds after using his normal attack. That way he can get to his abilities that much faster. But look what it also applies. It applies the same secondary effect that we saw for the earlier ability, Return Fire, counterattacking when he is hit. So because this can proc right here after he uses just his normal attack, I can only assume that this needs to stay active at all times. I don't see a scenario yet where you should not have this active, but who knows. Probably when you use like a support ability or a debuff, something like that. However, in the same token, I'm noticing it gives a debuff to the enemy for 2 full rounds, which seems to allow you to do 25% extra armor damage to them. Pretty legit ability for just a normal attack. Let's go to the next one. Here's one I haven't seen before. This is a light attack. It's called Salvo, does 29 base damage. Crit bonus right here, extra 10 damage on top of that with 1 damage to the armor. But look at the speed. This one is definitely going to be spammed for the most part because it pushes him ahead in the timeline by 45 seconds. I don't know. That seems a little bit crazy to me. Maybe seconds is like a relative term and not the actual seconds in real time. I have no clue, but it seems to be that this is the faster option for sure, being a light attack first of all, and pushing you ahead further in the timeline so you can take your next turn faster. Once again, this attack also has the effect of Return Fire, so again, I do not see this being depleted off of him at any given time. I'm going to assume most of his abilities, if not all of his abilities, apply this effect to him. Moving on to Bentley's card, the first card being shown for him is called Huddle. This one is a tactics-based card giving plus 25% shield damage to all of your allies. I assume that Bentley will also be included with this buff. This of course will last for 2 combats. Here are the gauges being given to all of your friends. So if you use this card during your resting periods, you can give 3 points to your relationship gauge on every single friend that is within your party. Once again, I do not know what this yellow value represents. Please leave a comment below if you do know. Moving on to the next card he has. It's called Free Jersey. This one is an aid card. This one is armor based. It's giving plus 3 to max armor to any friend unit that you use it on during your resting period. And it also repairs 25% of their armor as well. This already hints at the fact that the damage to your armor and your health is not going to recover after every conflict. So you're going to have to make smart decisions with your cards during your resting periods to make sure that your gauges stay high. This will of course give 4 points to one of your friends for their gauge to increase the relationship status. And I believe we have one more card here. Third card being Zone Defense. This one is a preparation card. Once again, this can be given to one of your friends, gives them 4 points to their friend gauge, but also gives them armor defense of plus 10% and crit damage of plus 25%. Once again, lasts 2 combats. Here's another example of a level up with Bentley from 1 to 2, getting plus 50% power and to his stats. New power armor piercing rounds has been obtained. We saw this earlier in the previous segment. And just so we can watch a little bit of footage, here's some examples of what the landscape looks like when you're out in the open. And also Bentley will be appearing right here doing some animation, and we will get into his combat animation here very shortly. Let's take a look here. The animations are absolutely insane, man. I love how they look. There is so much love put into this artwork. I love it so much. Here's some examples of his combat right here. That is stupid legit, man. I'm going to have a ton of fun with this character. Right here is yet another ode to Chrono Trigger. We have synergy attacks with 2 different characters, Bentley and Tark. I have not seen Tark yet, but the move they apparently are using is called Hell to Pay. Let's take a look and see what it does. Yo, that's an insane AoE damage skill looks like. Okay, look, I want to see that again. Hang on. Let me go back here. We have a targeting system of some sort, probably increasing crit damage and armor piercing damage. Yikes, that is insane. So getting some more clarity here on the damage values. We have numbers in red, which represents their raw health, right? We have damage numbers in blue, which represents shields, and also this little tiny yellow value right here of 3 representing their armor. So my assumption now is that shields have to be depleted in order for you to get to their health gauge. And the armor value that they have reduces the damage that you do to their overall shields and health. But if you can deplete that armor, you will of course be doing more damage the lower that value gets. Really, really cool system with the damage types. I can't wait to dive into it, man. Lots and lots of strategy is going to be employed in every single one of these battles. I absolutely cannot wait. And that's going to do it for the showcase today, folks. I really do hope you enjoyed my overview of the highlights of both Wynn and Bentley today. Definitely look for more future update videos on this channel for Star Renegades as they are being released. You can catch character highlights, character guide videos in general, let's play series, etc. A whole bunch of Star Renegades content is going to be on this channel. I will also be streaming the crap out of this game, and you can catch my Twitch channel in the description below, along with all the other Star Renegades resources that you want access to. You can find the main page of Star Renegades, you can find the Twitter pages for the developers, you can find the Discord server, etc. Whole bunch of different resources down below, and you can find that in every single video that I release of Star Renegades. If you want to catch any other current content that I'm doing right now, I am currently playing through Brigandine: The Legend of Runersia. You can catch my first playthrough of that game in the top right hand corner. Click the card, pull up the playlist, and I hope you enjoy. Star Renegades is due to release on PC and Steam September 8th, and I cannot wait to play with you guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed, really helps the channel, and subscribe if this is your first time here for more guide videos and Let's Play series. Also be sure to join up the Star Renegades Discord server in the description below. You can hit up myself and the developers over on that Discord server and have a chat with us live. I am your host, Vakul Sonari. Farewell, Renegades. Peace. Bye.